the session is a discussion. It's called Joint Prioritization of Topics and Definition of Modalities, as per the original program, but we're really looking to get a feel for your insights, your ideas on how we can enhance engagement. So there are going to be different activities, but the first one I want to show you is where we're coming from. So you've just seen the revamped communication and engagement strategy. And also Fabio mentioned that there was clear request from last year's meeting to for the Secretariat to devise modalities for increasing engagement. And one of those has been the webinars, workshop formats. So currently the Secretariat is working on Doing Science Differently webinar, which is a must and a priority, and it's a collection of best practices from all the projects and how they tackle specific elements of their research through a unique and innovative angle. But then, as Fabio was explaining on the Request a Workshop tool, which is a live tool currently being used on the GLFx platform, there's been like some suggestions and also some voting and a ranking of those voted. So admittedly, coming from a limited set of users that have interacted with the tool. But now there is a list, as you can see, from 1 to 7, supporting conversion to agroecology, water resources for agroecology, livestock, solar panels, relationship between agroecology and agroforestry, food system transformation, and biodiversity-driven transformative changes. So this is what the ranking based on people's votes are, but I think we want, now that we're here, we'd like to hear from you, a little poll, so what you think are the most important or most urgent topics that could be developed in the future. So I think we will launch a poll, and for that, we need to remove this. Stop sharing, sorry. Thank you. Okay, so can we move to the next slide? Next slide, please, dear. Okay, so we've ranked the proposals coming from the COP members, but we'd like to think about exploring co-creation engagements beyond workshops. So that's a great modality, but as we've seen, there are many other ways we could be engaging and scaling and reaching more people. So we'd really like to hear from you. But so we can think about the engagement modalities that may be part of the build-up to the workshops, but we're really keen to explore ideas beyond that format. So, oops, get next slide. Sorry, I don't. Ish. It's great, very dispersed. Okay, but now I have all the tools and you have the slides. So, yes. You have a clarification question? Okay.
Yeah, the question is, there were 7 topics we ranked, but there are so many other topics that were not in the list that could be webinars. Is there any room where members can make suggestions that are not this list?
Absolutely. I mean,
Only because this is beyond webinars.
Yeah, beyond. We also have a question too, making webinars work for the community.
Yeah, but that's the modalities. So I am talking about the topics.
The topics. I think we have a discussion session, so you're very free to put all your ideas and suggestions on the table. I think the concern, if I've understood it well from the team, is that it's a great idea to organize webinars, but they're extremely laborious, and sometimes they're not the most engaging mechanism, as people have said. There are language barriers, time zone barriers, etc. So we have a priority for now, but you're very welcome to give more ideas on seminars, and anyone here can also request a workshop on the tool if you're a member of the community. So yes, you can, Bernard. Yes. I know. Okay. All right. Is it okay? But I think we didn't want to do a specific session on more webinar topics, but we're very happy to welcome some comments. So we'd like you to discuss at your table first, okay, beyond webinars, what are suggestions for other alternative mechanism modalities for co-creating and achieving greater learning and sharing, but that are realistic, so that can accommodate people's schedule and other constraints, and then making webinars work for the community, so incentives to increase the active participation, how to plan for a truly co-creating process, and also if you have other suggestions, anyone from the community here has any suggestion on another webinar topic, you're very welcome to write it. So what we would like to do is maybe if tables are very, because we'd like you to have a discussion at your table amongst yourselves and maybe write down some of your ideas that we'll share a little bit later. So if you feel you're too few at a table, maybe you can join some neighboring tables. Okay, so we think and you can write, you have some white cards on the table. You can use a marker if you prefer, because it's quite clear it's clearer to write. So yes, if you can have any suggestions on these two questions, it'd be great. So thank you. And for the online participants, we have a moderator. Matthias will be moderating, so you will be taken to a breakout room most likely, but I think Matthias will give you the modality, and I think we need to switch off here. So have fun discussing that for 15 minutes.
They won't switch off.
Okay.
Okay, they will have to. A breakout room will be created, and everybody will be sent in Zoom in the breakout, except for the conference hall. So wait that the breakout room is created, and you're sent there, and you can discuss with Matthias moderating there.
So can I ask you one thing before, because we're going to go after. We'll start with the online group, but we'd like to go table by table to ask for a couple of insights that you'd like to share. However, we would like to ask you if you can number the question on your cards, if you haven't done so already, so that when we collect them, it can be quite clear. So please, if you could just put the number of the question, that'd be amazing. And can I have your attention, everybody, so we can hear some of the suggestions from the online group? Matthias? Are you hearing me?
Yes, I hope I'm also audible on site. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you.
Great, super. Thanks a lot for all the great ideas and suggestions for the online participants. There's plenty more in the chat, and please do continue writing there and also make use of the community of practice on GLFx. I think from the great discussions we've had and from the great ideas that came forward, two stick out particularly. Enabling more farmer-to-farmer horizontal learning that is often practiced on farm, on site, and make this experience globally available, so to speak. So there would basically be a recording of a campesino to campesino, farmer to farmer knowledge exchange on farm, led by farmers, and make that accessible to a global community. And I think this makes a lot of sense. Another key aspect that we've discussed that I really like a lot is that the TPP should increasingly work on making the existing research finding, the evidence and the innovations that are created in different parts of the world on supporting agroecological farming practices more farmer-centered, accessible to local communities, both in language, in content, and also in the form that it is being displayed. And finally, there was a strong call for the TPP to make sure that we're really practicing what we're preaching in terms of, in the project that we have, making sure that the different stakeholders have an equal say on how to go about things, what to research on, and what to do with the research findings. So making sure that it's not researcher driven, just like Bernard was saying in the beginning, but that the local actors, the NGOs, the farmer associations, but also the business partners have an equal decision-making power in truly transdisciplinary research projects. I think with this, I would like to close, even though there's plenty more, but we have several tables to hear from as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Matthias, and thanks so much to all the online participants for their great ideas, and we look forward to compiling them from the chat box too. So what about us? Let's hear from the room too. I'm just gonna ask every table to give like 2 ideas if possible. So can I start with yes, with the lucky man?
It's question 1, right? Is it 2 in the morning? It's now afternoon. I'm not sure. Okay, our first point was we should build a dashboard where you can share your data as a form of feedback. That was our first point. Another one, there's need to diversify TOT, training of trainers approach, facilitate it in a local language so that everyone will understand it.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's go to the back. Can we move to the second tape? Sorry, Vivian.
Yes, like we reflected on the importance of breaking down the process of engagement, and we have mostly 2 suggestions. The first one is to engage local communities in the sort of 2 steps phases where we start relying on the extensionists and the lead farmers who are connected and are reachable digitally, to then transfer the feedback, the instances and the needs that farmers express in-person workshop through these digital channels, because this can be a way to have more effective feedback loop. And then to address the issues of, to address context-specific needs, including also the issue of time zones that was raised before, proceeding in a twofold, ways, with subsequent phases. The first one is to start with national and regional virtual fora, and to adopt a participatory agenda setting where farmers' organization and local actors support farmers to have their voice truly heard, also through panels and roundtables and inviting guest speakers and champions. And then in the second phase, opt for in-person global events where representatives are invited, making sure that farmers' organizations are there, and also make sure that the conclusion is also sent with clear outputs and deliverables to inform the way forward, and like have follow-up and tracking tools to collect the feedback. And if you want like personal note to make like things a bit like to go beyond the collaborative online platforms and the fora, I think that you can innovate a bit the engagement modalities through games-based learning experience, peer-to-peer like mentoring, and also with immersive simulations. Thanks.
Wow, thank you so much for also once again great inputs into how important it is to work bottom up and innovations in decentralizing how we work. Thank you. Can we hear from table? We'll go with this.
Hi. So none of these are my ideas. These are the ideas of all the wonderful members at this table. So in terms of beyond webinars, one suggestion was that there is this component of talking to a scientist. Perhaps there could be an option to talk to a farmer so that there is some sort of actual reality check for scientists as well, to be able to connect with those on the ground when perhaps in the midst of the work that they're doing or writing a proposal and whatnot. And Anne had mentioned that if you do want to do science differently, perhaps start from the farmers. So to what extent, again, this also was mentioned, that can we involve them more at early stages of proposal writing? How do we identify their unique challenges, things like that? And again, we have the example of these living labs where there is a very active co-creation process by assembling all stakeholders together. Even within a single country, you will have multiple living labs that are very context specific to address the needs of those communities and those groups of farmers. We also had an example of a living lab in Kenya that is working with business enterprises and directly giving feedback on the efficacy and viability of various private sector outputs and products to help them with their sort of goals in farming. So for making webinars work for the community, the focus was more perhaps that webinars, it's The focus should be on having webinars targeting specific groups and their specific needs, rather than maybe hoping that you can assemble many different types of participants or stakeholders and hope that you would have the same kind of effective engagement. So perhaps webinars focusing farmers within a certain context or from a community, or policymakers and so on. There was also an example about perhaps walking webinars where, again, during COVID and since, I mean, you have WhatsApp and other digital tools being fairly actively used in creative ways to be able to showcase, where farmers can actually show as they walk through their own fields, what are their practices, maybe what are the challenges that they're facing and so on. Yeah, those were pretty much, I mean, there are a lot of other ideas that were discussed, but those are concretely suggestions.
Thank you so much. And I think it's great that we'll be hearing all about the our landscape, agroecological landscape, living landscape, isn't it? This afternoon. So it'd be great to know a little bit more how you process. So let's go, but if we can just maybe highlight 2 ideas per table, it'd be great. And can I give you the mic?
Thank you. I'll share from our table. On question 1, we are requesting TPP to share agroecological research findings to support evidence-based advocacy for agroecology based on a specific context. We are also requesting developing easy or simple fact sheets on specific agroecology trials, like sharing a summary results from the 1 million voices that can be farmers can be able to replicate. We're also asking for support for soil fertility management practices, support joint advocacy initiatives, like identifying an agenda that you can champion globally or at different levels, support up-to-date information on different agroecological practices. And discussion here was maybe we are teaching farmers on making compost that we did maybe 100 years ago. Maybe there is an update information on making compost. TPP to have someone who engages on the platform to reply on content so that you can get instant feedback. Maybe you need to teach on something and you need to request somebody on email and you get the instant feedback. Provide support on the review of curriculum on agroecological practices. Some of the partners are working on different courses on agroecology, and the curriculum they are offering may need support or review. We can also support bulk SMS to increase coverage of farmers' reach, because most of the farmers may not have smartphone to be able to have the 1 million voices app, but the bulk SMS can be able to reach many. Then on question 2, we facilitate a scientific conference at farmer level where information is packaged on farmers' language. That is, the scientific knowledge is translated to be understandable to the farmers, no use of so much scientific language. Support farmer-led research to ensure more farmers are also engaged on the farm trials to increase the participation and also inclusivity, and also encourage a lot of informal events with the scientists and the farmers to encourage a lot of interaction. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these insights, and move on to this table. And Rick, I know you'll just give 2 because you are a guy of numbers.
Okay, this is really 2 ideas plus 1 observation. So first idea is somehow for TPP facilitating small informal groups that come to proposed by members that come together around a specific topic or problem, thing they want to discuss, that would be temporary. You sit and talk about it, and maybe that's the end and you stop. Maybe it will develop into a wonderful long-term relationship, but if it's just a 1 hour next Wednesday afternoon and that's done, that's fine. The second is to do with localizing activities and making it easier for people in the same locality to get to know who's there and get together and do things, you know, not actually face to face, not necessarily online. Realize the agroecology map has a lot to contribute to that if more people knew about it and many more people put in their context, their experiences into agroecology map. The one observation is that Sanjay gave a list of all sorts of things that are going on in terms of TPP, and we at the table didn't know about most of them. So somehow being better, increasing access to those, visibility and access to those things so that any COP members can get engaged in the sorts of things that are apparently happening.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. Mary?
Sure. So someone made a good observation in our group that groups involved in agroecology, for example, in the EU, there's a difference between those that are more kind of active and vocal and those that aren't. And sometimes that's to do with having a social media manager within the group. So someone who has those skills to really be able to generate content and engage in a conversation. So maybe thinking of ways to engage maybe youth groups or people with the interest in those aspects, and then also kind of vocal points to bring communities together to engage in webinars. You need to have someone with the skills and ability to connect people.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you very much. What if it's Simon?
All right. So for us, we brainstormed, and some of our ideas were webinars from the field to actually have interactive sessions with farmers where they get to share what they're actually doing, challenges they face, and all of that. Not necessarily just webinars from an office or from home or something that really shows what's going on in the field. And then the second one is interactive games, like an integrated farm game, sort of like a contest between two groups. It could be live, it could be over a period of time. I don't know if a couple of us know the Segae game by the FAO. It's a really interactive game where you could get to make decisions about certain practices you want to have on your farm in an integrated system of crops, trees, and animals, and all of that. And every year you would get, a sustainability score or a rating to tell you how, sustainable your practices are. And whoever has the highest score at the end of the day or at the end of the game would be like the winner and tell us like what they did differently, right? Because you have the same set of decisions and all of that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we hear from the one before last?
Okay, thank you so much. We actually had 50 points, but since we have only to give 2, I'll actually comply. But I think we have agreed that virtual connections are important, but cannot do everything. And yet there is a lot happening at the farmer level. So how do we get out to the farmer level to actually support in co-learning? We also understand networks are critical. So how can we use networks as an area for mobilizing and co-learning? In terms of making webinars work, I think we feel that we need to have a system where we are able to collect what is happening from the local level, learn from there, understand the issues, and use these issues to inform the webinars that we want to conduct. So that would be a better bottom-up approach, and will ensure that we deal with real challenges. And then I think we felt that there should be more activities on the ground to ensure there's more interaction and more information coming out. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We look forward to exploring the other 50 points. Thank you. And last but not least.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm Rosina from Pelham, Kenya. I'll just summarize 2 or 3 points. One, we agreed that we need to localize our work more so that we bring the gap from the global to the local context. So we felt that that will make the work easier and effective, and that can be done